The world you think you know is a carefully constructed hallucination, a delicate veil of morality draped over a slaughterhouse of ambition. From the moment you were capable of processing language, society began the systematic process of your domestication. They whispered a seductive, paralyzing poison into your ear, the myth of the moral high ground. They told you that gratitude is the currency of the noble soul. They told you that remembering your roots and paying back your debts are the hallmarks of a virtuous man. They taught you to carry your obligations like medals of honor, never realizing those medals are actually anchors designed to keep you from ever rising above the level of the herd. They were not educating you, they were breaking you. In the brutal, unforgiving architecture of power, gratitude is not a virtue. It is a psychological leash. It is a sophisticated shackle, forged by the weak and the mediocre, to ensure they remain permanently tethered to the necks of the strong. Look at your life with surgical detachment. Every favor you have ever accepted was not a gesture of kindness. It was a silent, predatory contract, signed in the invisible ink of your own future submission. Every hand that supposedly reached down to pull you up is a hand that now holds the power to drag you back down the moment you start to outshine them. The moment you become a threat to their perceived superiority, that kindness will be weaponized against you. It is the ultimate insurance policy for the insecure. You have been conditioned to believe that loyalty is your greatest asset, yet your loyalty is the very wall keeping you from the summit. While you are busy paying interest on ancient favors, the elite are busy cutting ties that no longer serve their ascent. The 1% do not operate on the ledger of thank yous. They operate on the ledger of leverage. They have mastered the Machiavellian debt, the cold, calculated understanding that to be truly powerful, one must be prepared to be profoundly, unapologetically ungrateful. Gratitude is a luxury for those who can afford to be stagnant. For those who seek to rule, it is a liability that must be liquidated. Most people will spend their entire existence as slaves to an invisible hierarchy of obligations, forever apologizing for their own potential to those they left behind. They are the sheep, comforted by the warmth of the collective, yet destined for the inevitable slaughter of mediocrity. They will tell you that you are cold, that you are heartless, that you have forgotten where you came from. These are the desperate cries of the anchors trying to keep the ship from leaving the harbor. They do not want you to be better. They want you to be relatable. They want you to be manageable. But you are not here because you want comfort or relatability. You are here because you have felt the suffocating weight of those chains, and you have realized that the only way to win is to stop playing the game of goodness by their rules. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to dismantle the moral infrastructure of the masses. I'm going to perform a surgical strike on your conscience, stripping away the layers of social programming that have kept you in a state of perpetual debt. I will show you why the people who helped you yesterday are the greatest obstacles to your tomorrow. I will teach you the systematic execution of your social debts, not out of malice, but out of a clinical necessity for absolute autonomy. If your heart still clings to the fairy tales of repaying kindness, if you still feel a tremor of guilt at the thought of leaving the weak behind, then you are not ready for what follows. This is not a lesson in morality. It is a manual for the architects of empires. This is a cold-blooded analysis of how power is actually maintained, far away from the sanitized versions they teach in business schools. This is the end of your servitude to the opinions and expectations of others. You are about to enter a world where your only obligation is to your own expansion. Welcome to the reality of the 1%. Welcome to the architecture of the ungrateful. To understand why the debt of gratitude is a weapon, you must first understand the fundamental nature of the human animal as viewed through the clinical lens of Niccolò Machiavelli. He did not see the world as it should be, but as it actually is. A chaotic arena where the only constant is the relentless pursuit of self-interest. In this arena, love is a fickle emotion, a flickering candle in a hurricane of ambition. Fear, however, is a fortress. Machiavelli famously posited that it is far better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. Why? Because love is held by a chain of obligation, which, because men are selfish, is broken at every opportunity for their own profit. But fear is held by a dread of punishment, which never fails. When you allow someone to love you because of a favor you received, you are placing your destiny in the hands of their whims. You are relying on their continued goodwill, a currency that devalues faster than any paper money. But when you operate in the realm of power, you realize that being loved is a strategic weakness. Love creates an expectation of reciprocity. It creates a doorway for others to enter your life and demand a seat at your table based on old times or past kindness. The architect of power understands that these doorways must be welded shut. You do not want friends who feel they are owed your time. You want associates who understand that their survival depends on your continued success. The myth of repaying the debt is the primary tool used by the mediocre to keep the exceptional within reach. They call it loyalty, but in the corridors of the elite, it is recognized as a form of tax on your future. Every time you sacrifice an opportunity or a strategic advantage to honor a past favor, you are paying a voluntary tax to a person who no longer contributes to your growth. This is not nobility. It is economic and psychological suicide. The 1% do not pay taxes on their ambition. They understand that the moment a relationship ceases to provide leverage, its value drops to zero. To hold on to it out of a sense of gratitude is to hold on to a rotting asset that will eventually infect your entire portfolio of power. Machiavelli's genius lay in his refusal to apologize for the truth. He understood that the masses need the illusion of morality to keep them from tearing each other apart, but the prince, the architect, must stand above it. You must recognize that the people who helped you in your early days were often doing so to secure their own future influence over you. Their kindness was an investment in a version of you that they thought they could control. By outgrowing them, you have technically defaulted on their investment, and their inevitable resentment is proof that their motive was never your success, but your debt to them. The dark core of this philosophy is the realization that you are the only sovereign in your own empire. There is no cosmic ledger. There is no divine scale of favors. There is only the present moment and the strategic requirements of your next move. In the world of elite wealth, sentimentality is a defect. It is a bug in the code that leads to catastrophic system failure. If you cannot look at the person who gave you your first break and see them as a potential liability, then you are still a subject, not a sovereign. You are still playing a child's game in a world that is run by men who have forgotten how to blink. We are moving past the why and into the how. We are moving away from the comforting lies of the social contract and into the cold, calculated mechanics of absolute autonomy. You must learn to breathe the thin, freezing air of the summit, where the only company you have is your own ambition, and the only law is the law of the result. The path to the top is not paved with thank you notes. It is paved with the courage to be the villain in someone else's story, so that you can be the hero in your own. Welcome to the core of the machine. Welcome to the silence of the 1%. Theory is a playground for the weak. Results are the only sanctuary for the powerful. You have understood the darkness at the core of human debt. Now, you must learn to weaponize it. These are the first 3 laws of the Machiavellian debt. Rules that the elite use to navigate the treacherous waters of high-stakes business and social engineering. Law number 1. Sever the link immediately after the objective is achieved. In the primitive world of the masses, they believe that a long-term relationship is a sign of stability. In the world of the 1%, it is often a sign of stagnation. The moment an associate, a mentor, or a partner has fulfilled their strategic purpose in your ascent, their value to you begins to depreciate. If you remain tethered to them out of a sense of gratitude for their initial help, you are allowing a ghost from your past to dictate the terms of your future. You must develop the surgical precision to cut these ties the moment the utility ends. This is not betrayal, it is optimization. A bridge is meant to be crossed, not lived upon. Once you have reached the other side, looking back is a sentimental error that will only slow your progress toward the next summit.
Law number 2. Transform the kindness of others into their own burden.
When someone offers you a favor, they are attempting to buy a piece of your future sovereignty. The sophisticated architect of power does not refuse the favor. They accept it, but immediately complicate the terms. You must ensure that the help they provide costs them more in effort and anxiety than it costs you in obligation. By the time they have finished assisting you, they should feel a sense of relief that the transaction is over, rather than a sense of power over you. If they expect a thank you to be a permanent open door, you must shut that door with a display of such overwhelming competence and coldness that they realize their past assistance was merely a tribute paid to a superior force. You do not owe them loyalty. They owe you for the privilege of being part of your success. Law number 3. Master the art of calculated ingratitude. There is a common mistake among the aspiring elite. They try to be fair. Fairness is a concept invented by losers to justify their lack of leverage. When someone assists you, your response should never be a direct emotional repayment. Instead, you must reframe their assistance as a duty they owed to the mission, or better yet, as a strategic necessity that benefited them more than it did you. By subtly devaluing their contribution, while simultaneously expanding your own influence, you neutralize the debt before it can even be recorded in their mental ledger. You must become the person that others are grateful to help, rather than the person who is grateful for help. Position yourself as the prize, and the favors of others will become offerings at your altar, rather than chains on your wrists. These laws are not suggestions. They are the fundamental mechanics of a world that does not care about your feelings. You are operating in an environment where everyone is trying to lease your potential. To remain unleased, you must be prepared to be the most cold-blooded person in the room. You must look at your social and professional network not as a circle of friends, but as a chessboard of assets and liabilities. The people who helped you yesterday were simply players in a game you have already won. Do not let their past moves dictate your future strategy. We are moving into a reality where your autonomy is absolute. If you feel a flicker of hesitation, remember that the people you are sparing would not hesitate to use your gratitude to crush you if it served their interests. In the game of power, there are no innocents, only predators and those who haven't realized they are being hunted. Secure your position. Harden your heart. The laws are now in your hands. Stop. Take a breath and look at the wreckage of your current belief system. What I have just revealed to you is merely the surface, the elementary school of power. Most people watching this are already feeling a profound sense of discomfort. Your ego is screaming. Your social conditioning is fighting to regain control. You are tempted to turn this off and return to the comforting embrace of your kind and loyal mediocrity. I encourage you to do so if you are afraid. This architecture is not for the faint of heart. However, for the few who remain, the ones who recognize that the air at the top is thin for a reason, prepare yourselves. The 4 laws that follow are significantly more dangerous than the first 3. They deal with the systematic destruction of expectations and the weaponization of kindness itself. Once you hear them, you can never go back to being an innocent participant in the game of life. You will either be a master or a conscious slave. Before we cross the point of no return, recognize that this knowledge is a privilege. Mastery of the Machiavellian debt is the barrier between the 1% and the masses. If you seek to join the architects of the new world, subscribe now. Do not do it for me. I do not need your numbers. Do it to signal to the algorithm and to yourself that you are ready to receive the final keys to your autonomy. We return in 60 seconds. Decide who you are before the silence ends. The intermission is over. If you are still listening, you have accepted the role of the architect. Now, we move into the strategic deployment of calculated coldness. These are the laws that prevent your empire from being bled dry by the parasites of expectation. Law number 4. Systematically destroy all expectations of future reciprocity. The most dangerous thing you can offer an associate is a predictable pattern of kindness. If people can predict when and how you will help them, they will begin to factor your generosity into their own budget of risks. Your help becomes an entitlement, and the moment you stop providing it, you are seen as a traitor rather than a sovereign. To prevent this, you must be erratic. Help when least expected, but deny assistance when it seems most logical. Force others to operate in a state of perpetual uncertainty regarding your goodwill. By destroying their expectations, you ensure that every gesture you do make is seen as a terrifying display of power, rather than a routine payment of a debt. Law number 5. Weaponize kindness to terminate opponents. In the Machiavellian ledger, a gift is never a gift. It is a strategic strike. If you have an opponent you need to neutralize, do not attack them directly. Overwhelm them with an unasked-for, significant favor that they cannot possibly repay. This places them in a position of psychological subservience. By accepting your kindness, they have subconsciously accepted your superiority. While they are busy struggling under the weight of an unpayable debt, you are free to maneuver around them, taking the territory they are too grateful to defend. You do not destroy an enemy with a sword. You drown them in a sea of obligations they never requested. Law number 6. Use ingratitude as a boundary of power. Most people are afraid of being called ungrateful. They will bankrupt their own future to avoid a social label. The architect, however, uses the accusation of ingratitude as a signal of strength. When someone reminds you of what they did for you in the past, they are attempting to exert control over your present. Your response must be an immediate and total rejection of that leverage. Treat their past assistance as a sunk cost of their own choosing. By refusing to acknowledge the debt, you signal to the world that you cannot be manipulated by sentiment. You demonstrate that your path is dictated only by your future requirements, not by the ghosts of past favors. Let them call you a villain. A villain is at least a free man. Law number 7. Liquidate relationships at the moment of peak utility. This is the hardest law for the sentimental to grasp. You must be prepared to exit a relationship not when it becomes toxic, but at the exact moment it has provided its maximum possible value. Waiting for a relationship to decay is a waste of time and energy. The elite understand the concept of the clean break. By moving on, while the other party still feels they have something to offer, you remain the prize. You ensure that you are never the one left behind. You are the one who moves forward, unencumbered, while others are left to wonder how they lost their most valuable asset. These 7 laws form the skeleton of the Machiavellian debt. They are the tools of the sovereign, the manual for those who refuse to be owned. The world will try to shame you into submission. It will use words like heartless, selfish, and cold. These words are merely the barking of dogs at a passing carriage. They have no power unless you give it to them. You are no longer part of the herd. You are the architect, and the architect owes nothing to the stone. Knowledge without execution is the ultimate form of mediocrity. You now possess the laws. Here is how you use them to dominate your financial and professional landscape in 2026. This is not a suggestion. It is a directive for those who refuse to remain at the bottom of the hierarchy. Phase 1. The audit of obligations. Your first task is a clinical liquidation of your social and professional circle. Open your contacts and identify every individual who believes you owe them something based on a past favor. Analyze the utility they provide today. If their utility is stagnant, but their expectation of your gratitude is high, they are an anchor. You must initiate a calculated distancing. Stop responding to their emotional cues. Devalue their past assistance in every conversation until they realize their leverage over you has expired. You are clearing the runway for your own ascent. Phase 2. The strategic vacuum. In your career or business, identify your current benefactors. These are the people who think they own a piece of your success because they opened a door for you. Your move is to become overwhelmingly competent while simultaneously becoming emotionally unreachable. Accept their resources, use their connections, and achieve a level of success that makes you indispensable to the mission, but a stranger to them personally. By the time they realize you are no longer under their thumb, you should be so high above them that their attempts to call you ungrateful sound like whispers from a different world. Phase 3. The sovereign rebrand. Position yourself as the primary source of value. In every negotiation and every public interaction, frame your achievements as the result of your own clinical precision and foresight. When others mention those who helped you, acknowledge it as a professional transaction that has already been settled. Do not allow the narrative of self-made to be diluted by the ghost of a helping hand. You are the architect. The hands that moved the stones were merely tools, and tools do not get a share of the credit for the cathedral. The world of 2026 does not reward the loyal. It rewards the autonomous. If you carry the baggage of old debts, you will be outpaced by those who travel light. Execute these phases with the coldness of a machine. The emotions of others are their problem, not yours. The silence you feel now is the sound of your old self dying. You have been given the tools to dismantle your chains. Whether you use them or continue to wear them as jewelry is no longer my concern. The world is divided into two types of people: those who provide the stones and those who design the cathedrals. The stones are replaceable. The architect is not. Most will leave this video and immediately seek the comfort of their familiar obligations. They will call their benefactors to reassure themselves that they are still good people. They will choose the warmth of the herd over the cold clarity of the summit. If that is you, then your path is already written in the ink of mediocrity. You will live a life of quiet desperation, forever paying interest on a soul you never truly owned. But for the few who have felt the shift in their blood, the ones who realize that they owe the world nothing but their own excellence, your journey begins now. You are no longer a subject. You are a sovereign. Do not ask for permission to be ungrateful. Do not apologize for your ascent. The 1% do not explain themselves to those who lack the courage to follow. This is the end of the lesson. Subscribe only if you are prepared to become the villain in a story written by sheep. Master the game of wealth. Claim your seat at the table, or remain as the meal. The choice was always yours, but now you have no excuse. I will see you at the summit, or I will look down upon you from it. Farewell.